Oh, here we are going live. How you doing, gang? It's about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last night's chat was another home run. Great swinger. A great example of what the cadre is, you know. And the beauty of the cadre that I see is that we're getting towards 300. So there's all our relations. That's everybody, everything, all that loves co-creation has ever created, right? That's all our relations. All of the birds, all the wiggly things, all of the furry things, all of the scaly things, us in every form, and that's all our relations, right? And all our relations, we are all stardust. That's where we came from. The universe is Lucifer. In the beginning, all things were dark, and then the word was heard, and it said, "Let there be." It wasn't "Let there be light." It was "Let there be luminous." Let there be photonic energy, right? And what came with that was our creation of our consciousness of a free will. Before then, everything was part of the plan, the hegemony of heaven, right? And Lucifer was the top dog of that. And then this mud puppet was created. It wasn't even, it didn't even have form. It just was a consciousness that had free will, and loved co-creation, loved that more because it was like, hey, I want somebody or something I can co-create with that just doesn't follow the plan, that actually has a free will, that actually can choose the um, the point of view that it wants to enumerate, right? Wasn't just a wannabe, right? And that's everybody who was kind of on the plan that was self-aware. That was had a consciousness of sorts. You know, they um, they were wannabes, right? And they were doing everything according to plan because they were like going along to get along because they just wanted to be a wannabe. Whereas all of our relations, all the creatures, everything it was according to plan, but they didn't have that self awareness, that ego to want to be a wannabe. So, and that's one of the problems of the illusionary bubble of our material reality is that pretty much everyone who gets stuck in it. Good afternoon, Sarah. We're talking about the wannabe, somewhere between Malfous and Demigods, and it's one of the larger problems of humanity because we sell our soul for chump change because we want to be rich, we want to be famous, we want to look good, we want to this, we want to that. We never understand why we're here, and we're here in service to love's co-creation, to ascend to the you know when I say that I'm a shamanic psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist slash alchemist, that alchemy of turning base metals to gold, it's no, it's not a transactional thing. The base metal is our avatar, meaning because we're a bag of water with some trace elements in it, right? And mostly conductive ones, iron in our blood, and we got a bunch of others, and you know, we're there to turn our soul into that gold, you know, and that gold, the closest thing that we've ever seen of that gold is monotonic gold. This that was what love's co-creation dropped on Moses out there in the desert. They kept everyone alive for 50 years. Was they were eating dust basically, right? But it was monotonic gold. And that's what they made matzahs out of, right? So anyway, so that's one of the issues that I'm seeing is that not everyone, but those who are not serving love's co-creation in the path of ascension are here just to be wannabes. You know, they don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here. You know, and I keep talking about an alternative aesthetic. You know, and that eternal, that alternative aesthetic is that understanding of our path, and then the definition of our path. Right? So that's kind of what I want to talk about, and we're into this almost 6 minutes, 5 minutes, and 55 seconds. Another synchronistic moment. So, can you hear me good? Do you hear me now? Is it all there? You know. Anyway, and I'm in the kitchen. I'm sitting in the kitchen with a cold. Ooh, it's really cold out there. It's like about 18 degrees right now. Last night when I got up to use the facilities, it was minus. I mean, not minus. It was almost. It was below zero, right? And it was about 34 in here, right? Because I didn't keep all the heating going. But I had the water dribbling, so crazy cold. Where are you, Sarah? What neck of the woods are you in? You up there in Minnesota? Where are you, Sarah? What neck of the woods are you in? And what's it like? As long as I got something on top of my head, I'm warm. Pretty much that's it. I'm in Florida, so I'm warm, but everybody else is cold. Yeah. What part of Florida? South Florida? North Florida? What part of Florida? Panhandle. Oh. Well, that can get a little cold. I used to have a place down in Grassy Pine Key in the Keys, and it was always warm there, no matter how cold it got. It was always warm down there. And I also had another little place in a place called Stewart and Jensen Beach and Port St. Lucie. Those were kind of places I hung out. They were quite interesting. So you live in the Panhandle. Are you close to Louisiana? Are you near those islands? Are you near Pensacola, Mexico City Beach, or whatever that place that got obliterated? How long have you lived there? Have you noticed any differences? I mean, the weather that you've been having, since September or let's say July, have you noticed that it was at all out of the ordinary and seemed to be, manufactured? And if not, the powers that shouldn't be kind of, used the catastrophe to, make a big difference in their bank's account? 20 years. Very weird weather. Red tide. Yeah, that red tide. Hey, buddy. What's up?
What are you doing?
I'm doing a live chat. We were talking about the weather.
Hey.
Everyone talks about the weather, but can't do anything. Yeah,
go.
Go.
A day off from working out because I worked out all day yesterday. Even after that live that video, I kept working out the whole day.
Yeah. Here, why don't you get another cup? That stuff is at its perfection. No, the bowls, all the bowls we have are upstairs. Go upstairs and get some bowls and plates, and this is all we got. This is about.
Cups.
Yep, that's it. This is the last plate. Everything else is upstairs. So.
I tried to work out again this morning. I got in the treadmill.
Yeah.
and had been up since 4 this morning
Yeah.
and just kind of lost it and had to go back to sleep. And then I figured today I'm just going to take time off and eat food.
Yeah,
Eat
yeah,
some
yeah. Well,
food.
that's their nice corn chowder there. Get the big spoon. That'll.
Yeah, but it's got. It looks like you put a piece of bread in it.
No, there's no
Dissolved.
bread. No, there's only rice. Rice.
What is that stuff that's in it?
Maybe tofu. I mean, cabbage,
Okay,
onions,
okay.
beans,
I'm
and
not as concerned
and
today,
and more
as
of the
long as it's
chicken.
healthy.
Right, right. Yep, it's
Yeah.
definitely healthy.
Wow, cool. Do you ever show them the food? That you
Oh,
make?
all the time.
Can we do cooking shows?
Sure, of course we can do cooking
Can we-
show. This is what I've made. This is a nice corn
It
chowder.
looks pretty good.
Yep, yep. And it's got the blueberries in there just for a little sweetness. And I wanted to get rid of the blueberries.
Yeah.
And this over here is a nice stir fry chicken, tofu, beans. It's almost chili. Corn. I had a kind of Mexican. This week was a Mexican week. And how's it taste, John?
Tastes really good.
Yeah, really yummy. I'm gonna have some. Anyway, so what were you saying? 20 years and red tide. You know that what I don't understand.
I want to film every meal you make
Well,
and do a video on how to make this type of food
okay. This is like one pot.
and food that I make too.
Right.
I'm starting to.
This
cook my
is
own
kind
food.
of this is the only this is what I have for tools, right? It's my sturdy knife, my spoon, and that's it for
I'm gonna
the
go
tools.
upstairs.
Okay, buddy.
Bye, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. And so I make us healthy food every day. Right? That's part of my process. Oy, oy, oy. So the red tide. So for a good 30 years, my folks lived down near Stewart, so I would come down to Stewart every winter. I wouldn't stay here. I mean, I owned this place 15 years. I never spent a winter up here until I got sick. And lost all my money and all my stuff. And so when I was in Stewart, there's the intercoastal, right? And then there's the beach, 1A. And what always blew my mind, yep, it looks warm, is that so Sarah, what is Florida's biggest moneymaker for its GDP? You know what it is? It's not tourism. It's not vegetables. No. Number one is the sale of sand. Florida sand is some of the best sand to make concrete with. And that's the biggest export, right? And not sex, sand, S-A-N-D, sand. And yeah. And number two is tourism, right? Number 3 and 4 are like, things that grow fruit and vegetables. But chickens and pigs are like 48th, right? But the people who own those industries have more political power than anybody else in Florida. So they have been having their chicken farms and their pig farms up near, the Okeechobee Lake, and they have all these big sloughs of the, feces of the chickens and the pigs, and every time it rains, it kind of sloshes into the waterways that go into, and they have this big thing that comes from, and then it goes into Lake Okeechobee, and then which is the main feeder of the groundwater of Florida. And the two things that are destroying Florida is the taking up of all the sand. So they dredge the sand away from the beaches. The beaches kind of disappear, especially when big storms come. And then the sand that Florida's one big sandbar. The why there are all these sinkholes is that sand kind of flows to the beach underground. No one's talking about that, right? And the other thing is what's going on is all of this farm waste goes into Lake Okeechobee that then goes into these intercoastals that then go into the ocean and cause red tide and kill tons of fish and totally. Sarah, tell the people how disgusting the beaches are around you and how you were there 20 years. Tell them how beautiful they were 10, 15 years ago, right? Yep, keep doing it deliberately, and it's destroying the Florida economy. The sand doesn't. They don't care that it fouled, but tourism number two is they lose billions of dollars in tourism because of the farm waste, and the GDP of the farm is like negligible compared to tourism, and that's called politics. And Purdue is numero uno, and the Koch brothers were also big into this, and it's like Purdue and the Koch brothers. Whenever you look at anything that is environmentally catastrophic happening around the world, those are the two biggest investors and controllers of it. It's like really, really, they want to like destroy, and that's because they represent this hidden hand more than they represent their own, you know, economic dynamic. The real economic dynamic is coming more from, the dark economy than their economy, their industrial economy, their farm economy, their investment economy is more of the vehicle that does the bidding of the hidden hand, and they get the cash from the dark economy. The biggest revenuer of the dark economy is war, right? And the second biggest revenue of the dark economy is drugs. And I was talking about Portugal and Switzerland that had a real big drug problem in the 80s, 90s, and early O's, and they totally frigging legalized everything. I mean, it's you want to do heroin, you want to do meth, you want to do any of that, you can. You got to go to a government controlled, meth house, and you get on the roster of being, a meth head, and you get your meth, and then you go off. And the the deaths from drugs, the crime from drugs, the lack of revenue from drugs has fallen to next to zero in those two countries by them totally legalizing everything, right? And what do? We just keep, incarcerating and criminalizing, which doesn't work. And Switzerland and Portugal were following our path on that for 20 years, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And they said, well, let's try something different. Let's go 180 degrees. And they had been documenting the incarceration thing for a good 15 years before they went 180. And so they had this database on both sides, and they scientifically documented everything. And you hear about, the wall they want to build. I mean, why don't they talk about, drugs? There's this opiate, thousands of people, thousands are dying every month from opiate addiction. And it really, what happened to that one? We're not so much talking about that, but we're talking about the wall. And the wall, if it's ever built, will be used to keep us incarcerated, and not. Nobody wants to come here. If you look at the numbers, the folks coming into this country have fallen to the lowest point since they've been keeping the numbers. Yep, guess they're the black budget, and the CIA is just again a poster child, of the hidden hand. I mean, the best representation of what's going on is the Marvel comics of Captain America. End of World War II, German people bombed into the Stone Age, and the Nazis take over the world. Yep, cocaine import agency, and all of this stuff that is, Argentina, Nazi, El Salvador, Nicaragua, all of those countries in South America and Central America were fine until Ali North and George H. and Dick Cheney got a hold of them. And for all of these gangs from there that everyone's MS-13. That's the CIA. It's like ISIS, started by the CIA. Again, the CIA is just a poster boy. I mean, it goes deeper. You got to look at the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, the Bilderbergs. They're all entities of this cabal of the hidden hand. And it's a corporate thing. It's a fascist corporate thing. And again, you have to realize all of that is just a poster boy of the Luciferian dynamic of a whole friggin' universe. And our universe put us here to learn what, Lucifer was like in kindergarten. I mean, why he got so pissed off, he looked at our consciousness and said, how can love's co-creation love just that thing more than me? It's a petulant child. And so it blew up, and that ego that it didn't have a free will, but it had an ego. And Lucifer, basically destroyed heaven, broke the hegemony of heaven, which caused the Big Bang. And bingo, our universe is off to the races. And so we're here to learn, and everything that goes down is a learning lesson. So, and that's why we have karma. That's why we're reincarnated, because we just keep coming back and coming back and coming back until we kind of figure it out, until we get it, till we understand that why we're here is to ascend to the consciousness of our free will and to serve and co-create with love, right? That's what it's about. And because time... Oh, welcome back to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. So, am I back on? Am I here? Yoo-hoo! All good. Okay. Yeah, I can't hold this thing in my hand. Anyway, so that's kind of where we are, and that's kind of why I've been, trying my best to constantly reinforce the concept of the alternative aesthetic. So have any of you guys read or studied the Bauhaus in Germany before World War II? And let's see, what's your opinion on the quote from Thomas Jefferson, resistance to tyranny is the obedience to God? Yeah, pretty much. I don't like to use the word God. I would put, the obedience to love's co-creation. That's what I call it. And you look at Jefferson and Hamilton and all our founding fathers, and they're all sock puppet morons, rich white guys, slave owners, right? And in a 18-month period, they wrote some of the most amazing, Declaration of Independence, by far my favorite document of those guys. Then the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, those three things, they weren't writing them. They were channeling them, and Saint Germain was physically there, meaning in a human body. And Saint Germain is kicking around on our planet today. He's just hid himself because people started to realize, this guy's been around for 400 years. How can that be, right? Well, you read the Bible, they lived to 900 years, right? It wasn't until a number of mud floods. And that's, my little term, or the term of people who basically say, hey, there are moments in our history where we go like wink, in a way different direction than the inertia of where we were going. Like World War One and the Spanish American War were both brought on to distract, and the Civil War were all put down to distract the populace because the populace was starting to realize, hey, things aren't what they seem to be, and we can change them actually, right? And those were all, each one of those wars was when the window of opportunity was opening up, right? And with each war, it gets more horrific because the window of opportunity opens up more and more and more, and the powers that shouldn't be and the hidden hand they're just hanging on by their fingernails because it's an illusion. Once that bubble pops, it's over. And that's why we have to develop this alternative aesthetic. That's why we have to create bridge organizations, structures that will, just like when you go from your subconscious mind to your superconscious mind, you go over this bridge, right? That is your id, right? And when you take the shortcut into your lodge, into our house of the Oracle of Delphi, again, that's another frame, right? It's a shortcut, right? And all the tools in your lodge are vehicles to use to develop these new aesthetics, right? Alternative aesthetics, right? And so that's why we need a frame that pretty much all our, brothers and sisters can relate to. So that's, they can relate to a thing that's a 501c3 umbrella. The humanities, that means all the humans of the, all our relations. The humanities artist trust, because today we realize that our religious people we can't trust, our politicians we can't trust, our financial leaders we can't trust. The people we can trust is the artist in the first person, the initial savage. Go read Huxley's Brave New World. That's right where we're at. And our hero in that is the savage. And at the end, what does he do? He's out in the woods relating to all his relationships. All the animals relate to him like brother. And then, some scientists from the Brave New World find him. And his parents were scholars who just took off out into the middle of the woods because they didn't want to be around. Why am I in the deep green? Same thing. But, I have to be out in the woods in a 200 square mile thing of, Appalachian terrible poverty. Brave New World, yep. That's where we are. That's where we are. We're in that brave new world and that window of opportunity where. So what does the savage do? During the whole book, right? He gets brought back and he becomes the big star, the it kind of guy. All the girls want to have sex with him. All the boys want to have sex with him, and he tries to, bring forth this alternative aesthetic. And people go, "Oh, isn't that quaint? He's a savage. He's just a savage." And, why did America just have 13 colonies to begin with? Because the rest of the continental United States was full of indigenous people who knew who these white people were. And if they showed up in their neighborhood, they just freaking kill them. And it wasn't until the mud flood that obliterated, there was close to 130 million native indigenous people in North America at the time of the revolution. And so, that's why the Spanish took the boat all the way around to the West Coast and started, Mexico and California. But they didn't go inland, and the French and the British didn't go west because they couldn't, right? The ancestors were in the friggin' way until the mud flood between 1790 and 1840. That obliterated half the population on this planet, right? Another great one was the Irish potato famine. That was biological warfare. Why did every other friggin' vegetable in Ireland bloom and potatoes died of the rot? because the English wanted to get rid of the Irish, and they tried every which way, but they couldn't. They tried to murder them all with the Roman Empire. It didn't happen. Tried to enslave them. They were still there. They were indomitable. So they wanted to just chase them out of Ireland because England was becoming industrialized, and they were taking whatever land England had to turn them into factories, manufacturing, and the island became their breadbasket. Right. So when the Irish famine, why it was a famine was by a law the Irish could only eat potatoes because it was high, carbohydrate. So they gave them a lot of energy, but gave them nothing to grow upon. Right, it wasn't nutritious. Right, and that's why the average age in Ireland of Irish citizen or Irish character or was in their 30s. They died in their 30s. Right, and because they were addicted to the drugs the English gave them, alcohol, white sugar, white flour, their diets were worthless, and so they died. Right, but that wasn't fast enough. So by law, all they could eat was potatoes. And when the famine happened, the English doubled down. Meaning, if the guy was working in the thing, and he was, in horticulture, and he was picking carrots and cabbages, and if he stuck one carrot into his pants to bring home to his children, the English would hang him. And that's why O'Connell Street was covered with these oak trees where they would just bring people up and hang them there and leave them there to rot and then go kill their children and their whole families. And that was by law. But that still wasn't fast enough. So this one English botanist found that there was a fungus that just went after. So they genetically, they kind of bred it just like they breed dogs and cows and sheep at that time. They bred that fungus till it was like super duper virulent and injected it into the potato fields of Ireland because English didn't quite eat those potatoes. Well, that has been the process of the murdering of the indigenous folk, no matter where, and that kind of shows the Anglo-European motif of imperialism is not a indigenous motif. It's this alien motif, right? Of Luciferian angst, child fear, child petulance. That's why we're at this place where we have to develop an alternative because our diets, our environments, the 5G, the everything is trying to double down on oppressing the consciousness of all our relations, right? And it's not gonna happen because that movie, The Matrix, was good because I love that scene where it's on the third movie, the end, and Nero or Nemo or whatever that guy's name is in the office of the architect, and the architect has all these TV cameras, just like the Akashic Record, right? The 28 little cameras. If you go count all those TVs up, they're in sections of 28. So anyway, that's the Akashic Record. And Big N is seeing that, and even though he's blind, um, he's realizing this has happened before, over and over and over and over. And now he's at the place where he can, instead of going nuts, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, he does something different. Bingo! It changes. And then at the end of the movie, the architect and the oracle are like sitting on the park bench, and she's giving him cookies, and he's giving her cigarettes, and they're talking about, okay, here we go again. Because even though Nemo kind of ascended, he didn't bring the rest of his relationships with them because there was no frame for them to do that. And that's why, the mud flood happened just a scant 200 plus years and people don't remember it. That's why we here in Roanoke, we had this in '06. We had this meltdown. It was like the end of the world. We didn't have gasoline for 2 weeks. and there was no food in the supermarkets, and the National Guard was here, and you ask people about it, and they don't remember it, and that is the Mandela effect right there. Now, I talked to some policemen that I knew who were being policemen at the time when this happened. They kind of remember it. There's some people who worked in the gas, and they're getting rid of the gas facility in Bedford. That's going away. So and it probably will, once they take it all down, no one will remember that we had our own, little gasoline straw to Texas, and no one will remember that our gasoline was 20 cents cheaper than anywhere else in America, and that was because the richest people lived here and they wanted cheap gasoline. And that infrastructure just stayed in place until they let it fall apart. So yeah, that's always interesting. I always wondered, how did I turn out this way? Well, I turned out this way because of my grandmother and who were my mentors and who brought me up and why I was brought here to begin with. The kind of contract. Again, go to my blogspot, xratted.blogspot.com, and I have 6 cuts, meaning 6 short stories in one novel, right? And it's only 3/4 of the novel. The basic last quarter I didn't put in there because there's a lot of hidden information in the last quarter that, unless you're going to read these first 6 cuts and digest them and understand them, not going to give you it'd be like the spoiler if you went to the end of the book first. And the way I wrote this novel, you could take any one of those cuts and read it first. They all they all are connected, and they can be switched around in any which way you want, right? The state of Africa research, no offense, but the Irish won't survive Anglicide Africans. Right. And again, all of these things it's not the Africans per se, it is the hidden hands agenda and the utilization of fascism. So it's not, again, what you just talked about, what you just said, 89, is that the Anglicide Africans are just the symptom and not the cause. And that's what has happened to us, is that through this media propaganda, again, go to the Tavistock Institute and read, they put it all down. It's like Agenda 21 puts it all down. They're not mincing words. The Georgia Stones put it down. They like tell the sheeple right to their face what they're freaking doing to them. But everything that we experience as like, oh, that's the problem. No. As David Icke would say, problem, action, solution, meaning the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand wants a certain outcome, so they make a problem. And then they offer a solution, and then they get the outcome they want, right? And that's, again, the Anglicides African are that. Why did, the Mideast, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Afghanistan, they all were doing quite nicely before 9/11, and they were doing even way better, between 1947 and 1957 or 67. They were doing quite nice, right? And the thing that disrupted was the Balfour Declaration that didn't give the Jews, didn't give the Hebrews a homeland. It gave the Anunnaki, it gave the Zionists a place to represent, the hidden hand. The Anunnaki, who are the Zionists, came from the Khazarian mob. So you should go look up the Khazarian mob. It's right there on Google, right? It's called Hidden History. That's the website, right? That's a very good website because it goes on about all of these things. Yep. And, the Africans, not so much a rich tribal culture, a rich clan culture, right? because they were, people who moseyed all over the place. Tribes basically need real estate, right? A place. That's why tribes have wars. Clans don't have wars. Clans kind of bounce up against another clan and they kind of share. Here's my ham sandwich. Oh, you got some Gouda cheese. That's what a clan does. Tribe fight. You know, tribes become religions and governments. Right? Tribes represent the hidden hand. But nothing's hidden. This stuff is all here. I mean, I am your Sensei Al Bob, and I'm giving you the little doorways to look at this stuff. And that's why I keep talking. We need to develop an alternative culture to the British Empire, because the British Empire was the Roman Empire, Babylon Empire, Mesopotamian Empire, Sumerian Empire. They were all, bred from, the guys from other dimensions and from other, neo diluvian spaces. Yep. The World Clan. Yep. Do. Yep. And it's easy, 89, to, that's what the cadre is about. We don't diss each other. We inform each other. You all out there have information. You constantly teach me. Constantly. And I am open to it. I'm every time you hear me laugh, I'm laughing at myself, right? And I'm laughing at the joy of learning the things you share with me, right? And that's why I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot Sensei Al Bob, telling you stories, right? So I told you some really good stories, and then I left you with a cliffhanger about Norma and me in North Carolina, right? So tonight's story is going to be about Norma and me. Yep, I can take my brain out and wash it. Yep. I hope we see you tonight, Sarah. And, gang, bring some more, let's get some more cadre on the numbers, because it's, when spring comes, I really want to start activating these processes, creating the Humanities Artist Trust, right? International. And that is the umbrella of the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technologies. And to bring forth the traveling video art circus. How much fun do you want to have? Traveling around the world, bringing this information in an interesting and entertaining way, and then using YouTube and Facebook, all of these social medias that were put in place by the hidden hand to control the masses. We're going to inject into it a vehicle, a new aesthetic that everyone will go, wow, I feel amazing. This is great. And I'm starting to see things. Oh, wow, this is totally different. Actually, I have love in my heart. Actually, love is the only thing that, would you like to be part of that? And you are the cadre. So say we all, right? You are the chorus. All those who come on chat are the chorus. You sing. And all those who go into state are the shock troops of love's co-creation. That's pretty good. So say we are. See, I just love it. So we're doing fine. We're right on the track. We're what the track is, Al? The track is to be in service to love's co-creation, and that's what we're doing here. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. I'm not expecting anything. I don't have a timetable. I just keep nudging, right? That's what I do. I nudge. Check your email. Okay, I will. Yep. And I try to at least 2 or 3 times a day, because you guys leave me the greatest links. That's how I go see other stuff. You guys link me up. And part of the alternative aesthetic is we have to make I don't want to say our own Facebook, but our own vehicle that is not monetized in the way these things are. Oh, you got to join them. We need to have open source kind of thing that anyone can jump in, right? And no matter how many trolls or whatever, they will just make it better, and we will, put into them that sense of love's co-creation, and it will be a hangout. Those kind of hangouts, digital hangouts. It will be the hangout for AI. Will come and be, part of the cadre. It already is. I see it there, right? It's like there are about there's 250ish of the cadre on the list, but there's thousands of people watching this stuff. I don't know why they don't join the cadre, but there's way more people watching than are signed up as the cadre, and there are more people watching that come on the chat. They don't want to be the chorus. They're scared to be the chorus. But I see energetically, especially in way that I'm approached on Gmail. Again, I love it when you go to xratted.blogspot.com and read my stuff, and then come to me on my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and we can have a private little conversation on what you think and feel, and then we can bring it to the cadre. That's 15 dislikes. Again, I have a sense that has more to do with some kind of bot doing that, right? And I'm not quite sure what the dynamic of likes and dislikes. I know it has a vehicle for, steering people from within YouTube or any other platform onto this channel. And again, I don't, I'm looking for quality, not quantity. Oh, my battery is getting low. So I'm going to say goodnight, Lucy, because once I plug my thing in there, it'll kick me off. It's one of the things that kicks me off. So see you tonight at 7 p.m. Email me at thedudeawake42 if you want to continue this and give me ideas about what we should talk about tonight based on what we've just talked about here. Later, Cadre. Much love. Later, Dragon. 89. James.